Good afternoon. This is Lunch with Laura. Thanks for spending a little bit of your lunch today with me. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about what's the rush for Adrienne Bailon. Now, hear my heart. Today is really, I'm not here to really say who's a bad person or aren't they horrible people. That's not my purpose today. I really want to really focus in on Adrienne. Specifically because I think the message that's being, reinforced, the message that's being reinforced by her, the whole situation surrounding her marriage to Israel Houghton, really kind of speaks to what's really kind of near and dear to my heart and something that is a concern for me. And it's, again, not to say that they're bad people. I don't know them. But it's just something that really concerns me, and the message that it's sending to younger women, to women who are middle-aged like me, and maybe beyond that. The concern that there is this rush, this panic, this lack of men that are in what we consider our marriage pool, or the men who are available for us to marry, or the men that would find us attractive, or the men who would consider us for marriage. And what message and signal that's sending. Okay, and so my question is this Keisha Knight Pulliam all over again? I wrote about that recently a few months ago when, unfortunately, the press reported that she was getting a divorce after a very short-term marriage and a very short-term courtship before that. Anybody, you see the rock on Adrienne's finger, what woman wouldn't be envious of that, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but, just to say like, wow, that is some ring. And it is, that ring is stunning. But, the whole whirlwind courtship between her and Israel Houghton, and, that's what a lot of, girls dream of. That's what they tell us to dream of. That's what Cinderella's about and all the other, fairy tales about women and getting married and finding your prince and all that good stuff. But my question is, they're reported to get married sometime next month. I don't think anybody really knows the date, but sometime next month they're supposed to get married. What's the rush? Why now? What message is that sending to especially younger women or older, women my age and beyond that? Because there are so many factors that are working against them. And again, that's not to say that they're bad people. Everybody's got stuff going on. But why would a beautiful woman who has, a successful career get married so soon when there's so many negatives pulling against them? For example, she just ended her engagement to another gentleman last September 2015. And Israel announced his divorce this past February, but he doesn't say when he actually finalized his divorce. It might have been sometime in 2015, we just don't know. But according to Adrienne, they only dated 5 months before they got engaged in August. Now, I know that they knew each other because she starred in the movie I'm in Love with a Church Girl, and Israel was one of the producers on that movie. Israel has both adult and young children, allegedly. So it's been reported that, he had one adult child that he had before his marriage to his ex-wife, Melissa. And then he has 3 children by his ex-wife. And then he allegedly has 2 younger children, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old by another Hispanic woman. Her name is Devon Moreno, and let's call her Miss Moreno. Okay. And so, there's 6 possible kids, to blend in this family. And as I understand it, Adrienne doesn't have any children. And so, so there's 2 of them that are still very young. One of them is just barely in kindergarten. That's young. Hi, Mina. It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining me. But, so there's no fury like a woman scorned, right? When the story broke last week about the Texas Attorney General suing Israel Houghton for back and current child support, according to, in relation to Miss Moreno, the 2 youngest kids, the 5-year-old and the 2-year-old. Being an attorney myself, I know that, somebody has to file an application with the Attorney General's office, or I call the AG's office. Somebody has to file an application to go after the alleged dad, right? So there's usually only one person who can do that, would be Miss Moreno. So, my question is, do you think Ms. Moreno's probably just a little bit upset that she's not right now planning to be Mrs. Houghton, or, especially with the timing of this lawsuit. They're supposed to get married next month. And here we go with the Attorney General suing him for child support and to establish paternity of the very youngest child, the 2-year-old. Paternity has been established. I believe that paternity has been established for the 5-year-old, that Israel does admit that he is the dad. And so, if it's not that, if she's not upset that he hadn't proposed to her and asked her to marry him, at the very least, she may believe that she hasn't gotten a fair share of child support. And if she looks at she may consider the lavish spending of the engagement ring, the vacations, the pre-wedding expenses, and the wedding expenses themselves. So for someone, I'm assuming Ms. Moreno might have the opportunity or the ability to hire a private attorney. And for a person who didn't and went to the AG's office to settle this child support question, you usually only do that because you want this to be very public. You want this to be, something that people are talking about in relation to Israel Houghton. And so, either way, it seems like Ms. Moreno's pretty pissed off. Either way, whether she's pissed off he's not marrying her, or she's pissed off she thinks that she hasn't gotten fair child support, she's pissed. So you have that going into this marriage right now. And so, yes, yeah. That's my question. I'm getting to that. Sorry, I'm taking too long. All right, so she has her own money problems too. And this past July, her former management company was suing her for allegedly owing them $200,000. And at the time that I'm taping this video, as far as I can see, that lawsuit has not been settled yet. So she still has that pending. But your question might be asking, who cares? Why do you care? And so my thing is it an example in the public eye for other younger women? And so, a foundation of a relationship, really can give a forecast of the likelihood that it might end in divorce, right? And I'm not wishing that on them. I'm not wishing that for Adrienne and Israel. But there's almost this sense of urgency to run to the altar. I mean, it's almost like she's running as fast as her legs can carry her to the altar. Why now? They're saying that they're abstaining from sex. And so I don't think that she's pregnant. I don't think that's the rush to get to the altar. I don't think Adrienne's pregnant. And so, neither one of them seems to be shy about posting about their relationship, especially Adrienne. She posts a lot, as far as I understand, on Instagram and on Facebook. And, not so much Israel on Facebook, but I think he does on Instagram. He has posted some stuff on Facebook. But they talk very openly about their relationship. So it's not like they're trying to say, oh, we want to keep our private life private. So I am concerned about the example that they are as public figures for younger women. Because I know, some young girls really follow her and think that she's great. I'm sure she is a great young lady. But I'm concerned about the example that this is setting for women of color who really feel like there is some type of panic because, they feel like there is such a small pool of men to choose from or that are available to them to marry, and that is such garbage. That is such garbage, in my humble opinion. And so, it really concerns me because not only that, but they mentioned that they are believers, that they are followers of Jesus, and I don't think that this is a relationship that you can point to as an example of patience, of taking your time, and of waiting to hear from God about who you should marry. I wouldn't take Adrienne and Israel's relationship and say that that's an example, of trusting God about who you should marry or who God is preparing for you to marry. And so that concerns me because they're in the public eye. And what about identity and self-worth? This reminds me too much of Keisha Knight Pulliam's story. She was another beautiful woman, who rushed into marriage. She only dated her soon-to-be ex-husband, I think, for about 4 months. Maybe she knew him about 2 months before that, and now, she's suffering through a really mean-spirited, messy divorce while she's still pregnant with her first child, and so what does it say about women of color and their self-esteem? What does it say? Are they limiting themselves only to men of color because they don't believe that men outside their race will find them attractive? or would want to marry them. If you believe in the law of attraction rule, are these women making this a self-fulfilling prophecy because no other man besides a man of color would want to commit because they believe this is true for their own lives? So are they making this a self-fulfilling prophecy because they believe nobody else is going to find them attractive? So, and what examples is this set for younger women? You could argue that society can say, look at Adrienne and say, she's a catch. She's beautiful. She's young. She's got money. She doesn't have any kids. She's never been married before. That's what society tells us. But is this the best that this is as good as it gets for her? I'm not saying that they don't love each other. I'm not saying that. But is this as good as it gets to rush in the way that they are? Rush in the way that she is. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Maybe, God did pick him for her. I don't know. But just looking at what's been reported and what she's been posting, this is awfully fast. Why now? Why not wait? If God is putting them together, why not next year? What's the rush? Where does trusting God, that, Adrienne and Israel, how are they trusting God that they won't miss, the people that God has prepared for them? And what about a sense of panic in making a decision to get married? Because this is what it looks like. It looks like there is an absolute panic for them, especially for Adrienne, to get married. I'm going to focus on her because, women are, mostly the women who follow me on Facebook. And so, God just put such a tenderness and soft, and just a burden for women on my heart. And so I love you ladies. So that's why I'm really focusing on Adrienne, okay? I'm not picking on her, but this whole situation just screams insecurity, that they're insecure, and that's why they're rushing. They don't know who they are. They don't have a solid identity in Christ to really trust and wait and sit back and let some of this dust settle from, the AG and, the divorce. And, I'm getting to that in just a second. So this is such a tragedy that so many women of color feel like the pool of eligible men available to them is so limited that they practically have to run down the aisle because they're afraid that the opportunity to get married is going to pass them by. And so, and then has there been real healing and real adjustment? I mean, let's look at Adrienne. She just ended a relationship where she was engaged to be married to somebody else. So that's no fly-by-night boyfriend. And that only happened last year, September. Has she really done the work to heal from that and learn from that relationship what she was supposed to learn, so she's going to take more baggage into a new relationship or a new marriage with Israel? And what about Israel? He is ending a 20-year marriage that involved kids, and, it's estimated that Israel's worth about $8 million. And so, you can't tell me that he doesn't have an emotional attachment to, dividing up that type of money, whether he stopped loving his ex-wife a long time ago or not. Don't tell me he doesn't have any emotions about separating that from that type of money, And like California, Texas is a community property state. I know that because I practice law in Texas, okay? And so, I don't know what his divorce details are. I don't know that. But I can't fathom that he walked away without parting with a substantial portion of that $8 million. Is he over that? Has he dealt with his feelings about that? And to be honest, I don't know when they actually got divorced, but is he actually finished transferring all the money? Because who's to say that all that money was liquid, assets that he could just give to her correctly? Was it stuff that he has to sell or stuff that he has to sign over? Sometimes that takes time. Is he even finished dividing the marital assets? This is just so soon. It's just so soon after this. And so, and what about the impact of the divorce on his kids that he has with his ex-wife? Is it emotionally healthy for them that father's getting married so soon after their parents' divorce? I'm not saying that he's ignoring his kids. I'm not saying he's a bad dad. I'm not saying that. But my goodness, it's almost like Adrienne and Israel have sparks, coming from their feet that they're moving so fast to get married. And it's, you have to wonder. You have to wonder. especially with his, I would imagine he has a very challenging touring schedule and recording schedule. And, I don't think he's doing anything for the church right now because I think he's on indefinite leave. But, I can imagine he has a busy life, and so what about what about the impact on the kids? That's just my question, And so, Adrienne says that her and Israel knew each other fairly well before they started dating. So I imagine when the story broke about the AG and the two younger kids, that wasn't a surprise for her, I'm guessing. She says she knew him, so I would imagine he would have told her, hey, I've got kids, or have at least a younger one that may or may not be mine. I don't know, but I imagine he told her about his relationship with Miss Moreno. But has she considered, or has she really thought about the day-to-day adjustment to Israel juggling a visitation schedule with two sets of kids? Because he's got these younger kids that Miss Moreno says are his, and then he's got the kids from his ex-wife, and in juggling visitation with that. And then how does it factor in if they want to start their own family? I mean, this is just a whole lot to digest. Why the rush? And has there been real transformation? And we see from Brad and Angelina that money doesn't solve everything. There seems to be a pattern with Israel and fast courtships. He dated his ex-wife Melissa for approximately 4 months, and then they got married soon after that. And now he's done almost the identical thing with Adrienne 20 years later. Has there been real transformation? Give it time. It takes time to heal from divorce. It takes time to really digest on, these younger kids. They're so young. So his decision-making track record over the past five years hasn't been stellar. Israel started a whole new family, with a woman who allegedly has 2 kids that are 3 years apart. That wasn't some one-night stand he had after too much drinking one night, And I'm sure he whispered some things in her ears. That she had 2 kids, all the things that she wanted to hear, and that didn't work out with her. And there were kids involved. You feel me? So Adrienne almost married the wrong person last year, and, has either of them done enough counseling to really guard against repeating the same mistakes? Again, 20 years later, it looks like, a little bit of history repeating itself, right? As the song goes, as far as Israel is concerned, that's almost an identical thing he did with his ex-wife. So I don't think you can find any licensed counselor that would look at this and say this is healthy. I just don't, And so marriage is hard enough when you're not in the public eye. Marriage is hard enough, when you're a celebrity. But to add all this to it, And to be honest, I wish sometimes celebrities do a better job of keeping their personal lives private, to be honest. It just makes it harder for people, like me, who want to teach and uphold traditional values for younger women, and ask older women to take their time concerning relationships. Don't rush. Don't be in a panic, But, I hope the best for both for Adrienne and for Israel and for the children who are born and for the children who are yet to be born. I wish them the very, very best. This is not a video to, hold my nose up to them and say, oh, aren't they awful? No, I am concerned about what this says for young women in their decision to marry, and even for older women who may feel like, they may never get a chance to remarry or get married for the first time or remarry. To have this another example again of, just rushing to the altar, just really reinforces that fear for women of color. And again, I'm going to be doing a summit in January. I think I'm going to push it back to the 3rd week of January, talking about the dysfunction, specifically between black women and black men. I know Israel is of mixed heritage. His mother was, I believe, Caucasian. His father was black. And I believe Adrienne is a Hispanic woman. I think her father is South American and her mother is Puerto Rican. And so, I consider her a woman of color, even though I don't believe that she's black. She's Hispanic. But still, just this panic, especially with someone who's, society says has got it going on, is really concerning. And so I hope that you just consider that. Think about some of the questions that I posed. Think about different ways that we can kind of address that, because I don't believe that black women are have to limit themselves to men of color. That's just me. I don't limit myself to men of color. I'm not excluding them. I think black men are beautiful. They're wonderful. They're great. But they're not the only game in town. And so I think that helps a lot as far as the panic, that some women may feel. So I hope that you enjoyed this Lunch with Laura. I went a little bit long today, but that was just a burden on my heart when I heard the story about the AG's office suing Israel Houghton. And I'm like, I have to speak about this. Again, not to turn my nose up at Adrienne or Israel, but just to say, hey, this is a concern in our community and we should talk about it. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your lunch. Have a great Monday, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.